Always trust.
We ask the questions. What is needed in the world?
Od nastavnice engleskog jezika i prevoditeljice bez političkih ambicija do čelnice bjeloruske opozicije, od majke i supruge do predsjedničke kandidatkinje koja se suprotstavila višedecenijskom predsjedniku Aleksandru Lukašenku. Tvrdi da je apsolutna pobjednica avgustovskih izbora u kojima je učestvovala nakon hapšenja supruga. Šta misli o svojoj neočekivanoj političkoj karijeri, koji su joj naredni koraci, šta očekuje od bjeloruskih vlasti, a šta od Zapada. Za Al Jazeeru iz egzila u Litvaniji govori Svetlana Tihanovska.
Svetlana Tihanovska, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
It's been 6 months since a presidential election that sparked protests across Belarus. However, we haven't seen any mass demonstration in recent weeks. Why did protests reduce in size?
The protest didn't reduce in size. The highest level of repression and violence from the regime made people to continue protest movement just like underground, because of course the level of fear among Belarusian people is rather big, but it doesn't mean that people gave up. People are continuing to protest in different ways. They are organizing different organizations like medical organizations, neighborhood organizations, just to strengthen themselves in structures. So people are rather inventive now. They are continuing to put on pressure on the regime a little bit differently, but people are ready to go out for big demonstrations. And now maybe people are waiting for warmer weather, and for sure they will go out massively in the nearest future.
Are you hoping for fresh elections in the country? Are you still hoping? In December last year, you said that you hoped that Lukashenko's 26 years reign would be over by spring. Are you still that optimistic, bearing in mind current circumstances in Belarus?
I don't hope. I'm sure that regime will collapse, because people are not ready to live under dictatorship anymore, and they will continue to fight. They will continue to protest until we reach our aim, negotiations and new elections. So this is the question of time. The regime is weak, and Lukashenko is weak, though he tries to prove only to himself that he is still leader. He, in the eyes of Belarusian people, he lost his legitimacy. He lost respect to him. So for sure, it will happen.
He also promised to hold a national referendum on constitutional changes that would redistribute his presidential powers. What is your take on these promises?
It's a pity to admit that Belarusian people don't believe Lukashenko anymore, because we had so many cases when he promised to do something and he didn't. But this year, it's not the question about his words, because his words is nothing for Belarusian people. We don't need, at this very moment, we don't need this constitutional reforms or something. We need new elections. And after this, or alongside with new elections, we can take constitution amendments and all the necessary changes, but not with him. He's nobody for Belarusian people.
Is there any possibility for your dialogue with him? I mean, he said earlier that he would talk with opposition, but not with you.
Absolutely. We have such structure as Coordination Council, which was organized for especially for negotiations with regime, with representative of government. So it's not necessary to be Lukashenko himself or me, myself. It's not my personal aim. Our aim is negotiation of Belarusian people with regime who is still on its place because of violence, because they have no right police.
But is there any progress in that regard so far?
We are communicating secretly with the representatives of nomenclatura, with representatives of Ministry of Internal of Police. You know, people from there help us. They give us information and in a document, so they are ready to communicate. And now people are trying to put more pressure just to start these negotiations. People on their side are ready.
Mm-hmm. What is your next political step? When are you planning to go back to Belarus?
I adore my country, and for sure I want to come back. But I think it's wise to come back to Belarus when I feel safe there, because there is no need to become next victim of this regime, because here, though I'm in exile, I can do much more for Belarusian people, for Belarus, than being in jail. So if I have such guarantees of safety, I'm ready to come back.
Mm-hmm. And what is your take on support that Lukashenko gets from Russian President Vladimir Putin, bearing in mind all the loans and economic assistance? Not only economic assistance, I guess you've seen two of them skiing together in recent days. Do you think you might have been the topic of their conversation?
You know, Belarusian people were disappointed when Kremlin supported Lukashenko, because in our case, support of Lukashenko means support of violence and tortures. So Russian people are absolutely supporting Belarusian people in our fight for new elections, for striving for building a new democratic country. And support of Kremlin decreased among Belarusian people after he supported Lukashenko. But what's going on in Belarus concerning only Belarus. It's not about geopolitics, you know, and now any support of Lukashenko means support of violence and repressions. So what I can say, we can't take into account all those who are supporting Lukashenko, because they are not supporting Belarusian people. And everything what want people is new elections. It's you know what I mean.
Yeah, let's talk about support from the West. In recent weeks, you've been visiting many Western countries. You were prompting for support. This is what you said in European Parliament while receiving EU's Sakharov Prize for freedom of speech. I will quote you. "We ask Europe and the whole world to stand with Belarus. We call Europe to be braver in their decision and support the people of Belarus. Your solidarity and voice are important, but it is actions that matter." Did the West meet your expectations in that regard?
I'm sure they understand the situation. And European Union is like a big machine that is very slow. And I asked them to make more urgent decisions, to understand that a week for free people is absolutely different week for those who are in prison, for those thousands of people who are in prison in Belarus now. And we are waiting for the fourth sanction list from European Union, and I hope it will be long enough. And I know that European countries are supporting Belarus, still supporting. And I hope that they will be more vocal, they will be more consistent in their actions.
So what do you expect exactly from the European Union? A fourth round of sanctions, a list to be extended, or what else?
We hope that this list will include those who are responsible for violence in Belarus, not only the highest rank of people, but only for usual policemen, for judges who now sentence people for big terms for nothing, journalists, doctors, and just activists. And you know, all the people, some people from nomenclatura, maybe leaders of factories who fired people after protests. So all those who, in some extent, were involved in repression.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Do you hope that something will change with the new American President Joe Biden, bearing in mind sanctions promised by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who said that he will impose sanctions on 43 individuals from Belarus? Does it mean something for you?
I think that the USA can play the key role in our situation. First of all, because the USA is the first democratic country and they understand why we are fighting for. And everybody had heard Joe Biden, who declared that he's standing for Belarusian people. And I think that the USA, in collaboration with European Union and Canada, they can be they can put much more pressure on regime concerning human rights and justice in Belarus, so they can play a huge role.
Do you believe that political scene in your country, in Belarus, can change without support from the West? Because you're telling us that US plays a key role on the one hand, and on the other hand that EU is, as you say, a very slow machine. So can you do it yourself without support from the West?
Yeah, we understand that all the responsibility for changes in Belarus is on Belarusian people. And we are fighting, we are protesting, we are not giving up. But we understand that we want to keep our protest movement peaceful. But we understand that the level of violence is extremely high. And the regime is using, right police and its cronies in full extent. So we really need international help.
Do you have any information about what is happening with all the detainees? According to human rights organization, more than 33,000 were jailed during the protests. What is happening with them?
At the moment, about 1,000 people are in jail, and they are kept in awful conditions. For example, my husband is 9 months in jail already. Mm-hmm. And of course, when innocent people are in jail, when they are humiliated, psychologically humiliated every day, so many faiths have been broken, and people, just really innocent people, don't understand why it's going on. And they are hoping on Belarusian people. And we know that we will not give up until all the political prisoners will be released. And we are asking, of course, international society to cry about the situation in Belarus, because it's our pain, but it's like a challenge for international society, that you can't close your eyes while like genocide in a European country just beside you.
You mentioned that your husband is also among those who is jailed. He was, let's remind, he was supposed to run for president in 2020 election. He is a famous YouTuber and activist in Belarus. He's been in jail for now 9 months. Do you have any opportunity to talk to him? For how long haven't you spoken to your husband? For how long haven't he seen his family?
You know, in Belarus, people don't have opportunity to communicate to prisoners, and not only we, but all the people. Even though who in Belarus, we can communicate through the lawyers. We just can send message, and the lawyers send message from Sergei to me. The same with others.
What is your take on latest news from neighboring Russia regarding their main opposition figure, Alexei Navalny, and his jailing?
I consider that his returning back home is, very brave, because he knew, I'm sure he knew that he would be jailed, but he did this because he can't do differently. And of course, it's important for Russian people just to have such a hero. A lot of Russian people are supporting him. But we have understand that, our protests might look similar, but we have a different context. We are fighting against dictator, and people who are protesting in Russia, they are protesting, just for one person, because he quotes them. But I think in some extent Russian protests were inspired by Belarusian people.
You said that contexts are different. However, do you identify yourself in a way with Alexei Navalny?
I don't think so, because Alexei Navalny is a politician, and he in politics so long way, and he chose this way for himself. And but so is I'm here, like by fate, I can say even accidentally. So it's, our situations are different, but of course I can't give up, because so many people in Belarus are in jail, and dictator is still in the power physically. So I haven't chosen my fate, but I have to follow this. I have to be with my people, because we are fighting, against regime together.
You keep underlining and highlighting that you are not a politician. Let's remind, you are English teacher, you were interpreter before running for president in election. I would like to know, how did you, as a citizen, as Svetlana Tihanovska, who was a teacher, a mother, a wife, how did you suffer in everyday life under what many in Europe call last European dictatorship?
I can't say I suffered as you told, because me, the same as the majority of Belarusian people, we were absolutely a politician. We knew that dictator is in power. We can't do anything. We don't have right to say what we want. We are like, worthless. But maybe last 2 years, a lot of stuff has happened that opened eyes for all the Belarusians. My husband started to go around country just asking people if they are okay with such life, if they are agree that we are ruled by dictator, if they want to build new country. And people seeing that Sergei is rather brave to talk, like dignity started to wake in Belarusian people. And then COVID came, and we saw how Lukashenko don't respect Belarusian people. He wasn't beside Belarusian people during pandemic. He told that there is no pandemic, everything is okay, just drink vodka, ride tractor, and you will be cured. So we understood that it's not normal. It was a process of coming to the state that we woke up. It wasn't like in one day. And when Lukashenko started to jail candidates for presidency, strong candidates, people understood that, stop, we are enough. We are not ready to live with this dictator anymore, and we are ready to fight for our choice.
I would like to know whether you regret for your choices, bearing in mind the current situations, which is rather bizarre, because you're still in exile. On the one hand, on the other hand, Lukashenko still keeps grip on power. You said you have limited support from the West. Do you regret bearing in mind the toll that politics took on your private life?
We have a very difficult situation, and my everyday life is everyday fight. The same about Belarusian people, they fight every day. It's difficult, it's scary, but people are happy that at last they have found strength to fight for their dignity, to fight for their identity, to fight for their freedom. It's just a combination of feeling fear because of violence and the sense of self-dignity. It's wonderful.
How about yourself? Do you regret for your own choices? Do you think all this sacrifice paid off, bearing in mind current circumstances?
It's a difficult question because, you know, I have to take into consideration all the events after election day, after the 3 days of hell in Belarus. But I can't say, I regret about victims. I regret about people who are suffering now in jails, but I can't regret about my decision because it was a decision of pride, you know.
So one day when you go back to Belarus, what are you planning to do? To go back to an ordinary life, to your private life, or to pursue a political career?
No, first of all, I will stay with Belarusian people until new fair elections. I promised to stay with Belarusian people, to stay in political arena, and I will do this. After new election, I don't know if, you know, when we say if you want to make God laugh, just tell about your plans. Of course, I have learned too much to come back to the kitchen, you know, as propaganda says, but I'm sure that I will be useful for my country, maybe on political arena, maybe in different circle, I don't know, but I will work for Belarus and for people.
Thank you very much, Svetlana Tihanovska, for talking for Al Jazeera Balkans.
Thank you.
Always trust. We ask the question, what is needed in the world?